I have a great pleasure in introducing Dr. Harish Hirani, Associate Professor at Institute of Technology, Delhi, to deliver in this third plenary session of this August conference. Dr. Harish Hirani is an Associate Professor with Department of Mechanical Engineering, Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. And his research interests include bearings, especially active magnetic, semi-active magnetorheological, passive magnetic rolling elements, and hydrodynamic seals. He has published extensively in this topic, which has furthered the horizons of knowledge base in this very particular tribological element, namely the bearings. I invite Dr. Harish Hirani to present his topic in this plenary session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. It will be difficult to concentrate on the topic, and particularly this topic, which is a little heavy. So I'll try to keep it as simple as possible without any equation, because it requires a lot of mathematical equations. Just a few lines for my work related thing. So we work in design, tribology, and optimization. See, tribology in a complete sense is the design. Finally, we need to make products. What the Dr. Bobchi says that we need to make something, right? And we are making products. Reason being, I do consultancy, research, and teaching in these three areas. Most of my research notes or lecture notes, they are available on my website. In addition, I got opportunity from the Government of India to deliver the lectures on tribology topic. I have around 42 hours lecture which are available online. You just use a keyword Harish Hirani, YouTube, all lectures will be available. So I don't want to bore with those lectures now, but if you have interest, you can go through these lectures. We have understood that tribology is related to relative motion. If there is no relative motion, there is no load, no need of tribology. But almost every machine components involves these two, load and relative motion. So let's start with my present topic. That's using the maintenance free flywheel using magnetic bearings. Magnetic bearing is one of the common thing in these days. The only thing is the cost consideration. It's very expensive, and my view is that if we are able to make this kind of magnetic bearing, then a lot of saving will happen, good product will come out, we can make product maintenance free. In this case, my email ID is also written, and the co-author of this paper is Lijesh KP, he is also here, he is my PhD scholar. Let's start with something like a maintenance. We don't want maintenance, so maintenance free, then flywheel and magnetic bearings. Easiest way to concentrate is bearings. I did my PhD also in bearings, but it was a hydrodynamic journal bearing. Then I did some work in roller bearings, big size roller bearing, around 1.1 meter large size. Then I worked on hybrid bearings also, permanent magnet with hydrodynamic. We are working in this case a hybridization of electromagnet and permanent magnet, which may give us very good results or overall good results. Let's say define the bearing first. We say that it provides support, it helps in guiding or alignment, and it reduces the friction. That's some of our criteria, particularly in relatively moving components. So if I see in grossly, gears are bearings, cam follower is a bearing, almost all kind of tribological equipment can be belonging to the bearing area. So, we cannot differentiate. However, our topic in this case is minimize energy losses, which can fall over unless it is done very good coating, it cannot be. Gears, sliding will occur, some problems or alignment problems or assembly problems will create problems. So, that is why we wanted to go for the maintenance free. Reason being, if I use a ball bearing, I had to see alignment, I had to engage, assemble it properly. Few micron more interference, few micron more in clearance will give me the bad performance. It is not going to give me the same performance. And this is an interesting thing. We were working for the one company and they asked, sir, few bearing in our company, they last for the 2 months and few bearing last 2 years. Same product, same bearing, same everything. Okay. So when you assemble it, either you are creating little more interference or you are creating little lesser interference. You create, vibration level will change, load level will change. That means the fixing itself is creating a maintenance. So, we should make some bearing where this kind of problem can be overcome or removed completely. So, this is what we felt, because in fact, when I was working for the Jindal Iron and Steel, their big size bearing failed and they had a very big, huge losses, product losses, and each bearing was costing around 35 lakh rupees. So, their 2 bearing failed in 2 shifts, and then we started working on that, we got the solution, but again this is because of the assembling problems, the way it has been fixed, that will give the result. Now, I can define the bearings in 2 categories, one is the contact type and non-contact type. It is my way to define. Say, wherever there is a physical contact, mechanical contact, the bearings will be contact bearing. It can be bush bearing, it can be roller bearing. So, roller bearing I am keeping in contact, assuming there will be physical contact. There will not be sufficient lubricant to remove the physical contact. That is why the rolling happens. So, these are the contact bearing. However, other side is a non-contact. I can put air bearing in non-contact bearing if it is properly supported. I can put hydrodynamic bearing also in non-contact bearings. And of course, the present topic, magnetic bearing, these bearings are non-contact bearings. Question comes, if I make shaft away from the bearing, don't allow any contact, will bearing survive properly? It appears to me in the first instant, yes. If I am able to avoid the physical contact, it should give me the good results, but it is not always the case. Many times failure occur during running time, even though initially there is no contact, because of slight vibration, some additional phenomena, contact occurs and the failure occurs. So, not if we say that on non-contact with a magnetic bearing should work nicely, but it is not always. So, there are some situations, some load condition, some speed condition where these bearing are fine, otherwise not. We should not use this. Let's talk here, let's take a topic of the flywheel, because bearing was talked something and the flywheel we have studied thoroughly. Flywheel is more like an energy storage device. It's like a battery, it's like a UPS for our computer. The flywheel can be used where you can store energy. Of course, in this case we use the word rotational energy. If we are able to store rotational energy in this and the supports are not good, then that stored energy will be wasted. The bearings are bad, bearings are bush bearings or rolling element bearing, there will be continuous losses. So, whatever I try to store in flywheel, some amount will be wasted. So, we are trying to overcome that. Yeah, we want a magnetic bearing, there should not be any frictional loss, and it is more like a perfect magnetic levitation. And flywheel runs without any problem, without losing energy. So, just to give flavor of the flywheel, if you are new to this area or you are not seen, you can see here what we are doing in this case. There is a flywheel in cam follower mechanism, there is a ball mechanism over here. The flywheel has been used to store energy and give whenever it is required. That is the main thing. Same thing in this case also. Now, it has been used in number of machines, like you can see here is a punching press where the fly is used, where the only energy requirement in a cycle maybe around 60 degree. Out of 360 degree, only 60 degree energy requirement happens, and remaining 3 degree and 300 degree rotation, there is no energy requirement. That is why the flywheel can be used, and that is why we are saying this is a good mechanism to store energy and spontaneously give back. What happens if I use a UPS, if I use a battery, it will take some time to give back to the response. There will be some delay time, while in case of the flywheel, delay time is almost negligible. When I think from an energy point of view, I understand two things. One is angular velocity and inertia. Inertia has a two component, mass and radius. That means if I want good flywheel, I need to keep larger radius, I need to keep much higher angular speed. If you are able to keep these two, naturally system will be bulky. If the radius is increasing, geometrically deviation will be moved, cylindricity will be problem, there will be variation. And in addition, if I keep a larger angular velocity, then possibility of unbalanced forces will be also larger or a higher side. So these are the two criteria. I should design for the larger radius or larger omega flywheel, but if I design this, there are associated problems. There will be associated vibration related problem, associated unbalanced force related problems. However, if I am able to design something on a magnetic bearing, and then we say that there is an active component, passive component, both are there, and I am getting good results, then there will not be much problem. I can say, yeah, I can use flywheel as an energy storage system. So that's why in this case we have used the word FESS, flywheel energy storage system, and we believe in near future, more or less, this technology will be used in every component. Maybe batteries will be, already we know there are a lot of norms, government is going against the batteries. If you buy one battery, you have to dispose of back. Disposing of back is very, very difficult, right? You need to pay money also, a company needs to pay money to dispose of that battery. So that's why we're thinking that this technology will in near future replace the batteries, even in UPS, even in computers. The big companies already have replaced with the flywheel system. And another advantage compared to battery, what we are emphasizing is a quicker. It immediately releases back the energy. It doesn't give us any delay time. While in battery, yeah, it takes time. Again, reaction takes, and then it will have there will be some delay time. Now, if I compare on a larger scale also, the published literature, and we are comparing here, but we are saying that flywheel has a larger energy density as well as has a high power density. So flywheel are good enough to replace batteries if proper bearings are designed for this kind of component. Now, if I rate or try to give in words, you are saying that flywheel has a very high efficiency. 90% is on lower side, and if I replace with the bearings, magnetic bearing, we can say that 98%. Another good thing is that you have a mobile phones, and then it has been given always some instruction. Don't allow battery to get discharged more than 50%. Because the battery is getting discharged more than 50%, that will be counted as a one cycle, right? And then you have a 2000 cycle life of the battery. If you allow more than 2000 times that battery to get discharged, I am talking the good quality battery. If it's a bad quality battery, quite possible 300 cycle, 200 cycle, 100 cycle. After that, you have to replace the battery. That means battery has a life depending on how much discharge is happening at an instant, right? Or otherwise, we are keeping always a charging on that. I'm not allowing to discharge at all. Well, in case of the flywheel, it doesn't happen like that. You can discharge to a great extent. Only condition comes from the bearing. Yeah, lowest this much, below that bearing will not work. Another thing is this kind of component have a wide temperature range. Again, limit comes only from bearings, not from flywheel. If a bearing is working nicely, there is no problem. Otherwise, if you see battery, if the operating temperature is more than 45 degree, bearing life or the battery life will be 50%, which is bad. The reason being, of course, I'm not saying that in the mobile phone also flywheel will change. Quite possible the mobile battery will remain, but big machineries, wherever major criteria comes, that time this kind of flywheel component will change. Now, another thing which we are saying in case particularly the flywheel disadvantage or recent flywheel, whatever the component is coming out, they are generally on the ball bearings, rolling element bearings. So that's why we are saying that they are having standing losses. In addition, if it is an air, some sort of air drag also will be happening on that, that will cause the losses. And if we are able to replace with a magnetic bearing, we are able to come up with a nice results, then flywheel also will have a good result. Of course, I am presenting this all results from one of our CSIR project which we got in the month of July, August, started in September. So, I am not going to give you complete solution. I leave to the certain limit. After that, you need to think how to go ahead further. Right? This is our 3-year project. I am presenting the work which we have done in last 6-7 months. Now, coming to the magnetic bearings, we have passive magnetic bearing and active magnetic bearing. What is a passive magnetic bearing? I designed for some load, some speed. If it is there, that bearing will work nicely. It will not be an issue. However, if there is a dynamic load, if there is some sort of the failure or some sort of variation in the applied load, some sort of variation in speed, then I require active component. That will be decided at that time. So, that is what we call active magnetic bearing. However, passive magnetic bearing has the advantage being cheaper and no running cost, almost no running cost. While in this case, active bearing maybe initial cost is a higher side and running cost is also on a higher side. So, this may not be giving a cheaper solution to us, but if I am talking about maintenance free, yeah, this bearing may give me the good solution. Now, what we did, first bearing which we made in somewhere in 2006. I talked about the CSIR project which came recently, but this was the earlier work. What we did, the 4-pole active magnetic bearing we tried to make, and we developed some setup. You can see here there are 2 bearings, one bearing here, one bearing here. But in addition to that, what is the problem? We have some backup bearing. What happens if electricity is not there and the support needs to be, or load is there, speed is there, we need to support it, or there is some sort of failure in electricity supplied to this electromagnetic bearing. Shaft will otherwise fail. So, what they keep or what we kept also, that is what we call a backup bearing. Backup bearing is a rolling element bearing in this case, but having a larger clearance. The shaft is at the center. This rolling element will not be there, it will be ineffective. But if at the initial condition it comes rest on this bearing, that means initial friction will be there, initial wear will be there, and when we are switching off this shaft or motor or drive, then again there will be wear and friction. That means actual operating condition there will not be any wear, otherwise there will be wear on friction. So, this is one of the drawback. We need in this case support bearing. In this case we have used a rolling element bearing, otherwise the aerodynamic bearing also can be used, push bearing can be used. And this is we have used a ball bearing, people can use a roller bearing also. Now, what are the drawbacks in this system? We did all the calculation, we knew each and everything, and we could control this system even in open loop. There was no feedback system proper. We took signals and supply current, results were fine. So, we did not use any DSP, no digital signal processing, no actuation further. Even in the open loop condition, we could get a good results 500 RPM to 5000 RPM. Reason being, things were known to us. Unknown things were not applied or given to the system. So, we got good success. Of course, one of the major drawback that time was the power amplifier, how to give large current to electromagnet. That was one of the major thing, and in market 2006 this was not available. We made complete circuit, we connected and finally applied. But when we did experiments, what are the problems? Say we need to supply some electromagnetic current always in electromagnet, and that consumes 30 watts in two electromagnet, vertical and horizontal 18 kilowatts. That means I made a bearing, magnetic bearing, nice magnetic bearing, working in open loop, showing stabilization, showing proper results, but consuming electricity by or maybe amount of 48 watts. If I So I talked something about the backup bearing. Another thing, another problem what we face is was somewhere here rigid coupling. We use a rigid coupling, and people say, yeah, quite possible. The shaft has been supported by the rigid coupling. This was another thing. And yes, as I mentioned that this is a open loop system. We use shaft dead weight as a main load and use this one. Our major achievement, as I say, that this power amplifier, and we made an added circuit, subtractor circuit. This is the drawback. In this sense, a positive point because we made it. Drawback, it was analog. We cannot change dynamically. Now, what we have done, we have made this complete as a digital one, so you can change anytime whatever you want. While in this case, it was made well in advance for the known loads, known speeds. Now, after that, we published this paper in 2006, and we gave the we literally rejected the idea that electromagnetic bearing can be used. We compared three bearings: electromagnetic, rolling element, and hydrodynamic. We went with the open loop, which was the cheapest one. Even in that time, the cost for this one bearing came out to be 65,000 rupees. However, if I buy similar kind of well brand, the very good brand bearings, even SKF, Timken, that bearing will not cost more than 650 rupees. So comparison, 650, 65,000. So it's just 1%, right? And another thing, as we show that electromagnet requires some sort of current. The 48 watts, 7 watt, this was a 48 watt was required for electromagnet. When we did comparison with a rolling element bearing, it came up with requires only 7 watt. That means friction loss is happening with 7 watt in a rolling element bearing. We are saying the electromagnetic bearing, active magnetic bearing is a frictionless, contactless, doesn't require any friction force to be overcome. We are supplying 48 watts. It's almost 7 times more, right? So cost is 100 times more, running cost is 7 times more, and still we feel active magnetic bearing or magnetic bearing will give the good results to us. Yeah, so we finally rejected the idea of using active magnetic bearing at that time. Yes and no. For the ordinary machine, for a common machine, where the major factor is cost. Let's take example. I am working for the Hero cycles. You have seen the black color big cycles, and they came up with can we design gearbox for the cycle so that you have a 2 to 3 speeds, and the gear need to be enclosed. So that is what we call a hub gear. The only major constraint, cost of the gearbox, complete gearbox should not be beyond 300 rupees or should not be more than 300 rupees. It is difficult to imagine. You use a planetary gear system, you use the 3 bearings inside, we are having a very complicated shaft shape, then motion, changing shifter mechanism, gear 1, gear 2, gear 3, and and everything together should not be more than 300 rupees. Reason being, even you make a successful product, you launch it, market is not going to accept it. Right? So, if they spend too much money and the market is not accepting their product, naturally that will be useless. Right? So, in India particularly, the cost has been a very major factor. Whenever we discuss the cost, it has to be low or lowest one. However, we are doing a project for CSIR where the cost is not coming that big factor. The reliability, maintenance free operation is a major factor. Otherwise, the cost. However, if you are able to keep a good reliability at the low cost, naturally you will be appreciated, your product will be appreciated. So, in this case, what we say that active magnetic bearing cannot compete with conventional bearings. People are ready to buy a bush bearing, plug in, remove after 1 year, throw it, make another bearing. As the Professor Vapchi mentioned, you don't want to think much what happened to the bearing. You plug it out, make a new one, or use new one, start again. And we don't have to really go in detail. 100 rupees, 200 rupees, the product comes. Why do we change, or why we spend a lot of money on analysis? However, as I say that maintenance, maintenance free operation is required. We are not able to attend problems. There, this kind of product may work. Now, to reduce the cost, we started in 2008 work in permanent magnetic bearing. What is a good thing about permanent magnet? They repel, attract also. However, bearing, if I may put on the repulsion, obviously the shaft and stator, the bearing, they are put in the repulsion mode. They should never contact. If we are not able to contact, I am going to get a frictionless surface without any wear. Right? So, there are a number of possibilities. However, the two possibilities have been shown over here is something like I am using the word instead of shaft, the rotor. Reason being, this magnet is a hollow and shaft, the stainless steel or aluminum shaft will go inside. So, this is the rotor and this is a stator. In both the cases, we are keeping in repulsion. This arrow shows very clearly north south. So, north if it comes closer, they will repel. The magnet will repel each other. Same thing can be done using this one. However, little in this case concentricity or alignment will be little more problem. That's why we started working with this kind of configuration. This is a passive magnetic bearing. Naturally, when you go for passive magnetic bearing, you need to choose permanent magnet, which will give the good results. Ferrite magnet is available easily in market. You can buy it. What's the problem with the ferrite magnet? They don't have a very good energy product. Right? Either 20 to 35 kilojoule per meter cube. Now, what we use a neodymium iron boron. Of course, we bought from China. India doesn't make that magnet. Neodymium iron boron, you can see more than 10 times energy product. So, repulsion force which will be created by this magnet will be much higher. Load carrying capacity of these magnets will be much higher. Initially, people have rejected idea of using the permanent magnet bearing, reason being ferrite magnet, which have a very low energy product. Now, this is increasing 10 times, so we shall try. However, there are other products also. We can like Alnico is a very good magnet, is available cheaply also. And another good thing is that it is a high energy. It can work in high environment, high temperature environment. Only problem is the demagnetization. Alnico cannot survive for long. Demagnetization is very fast. Neodymium iron boron demagnetization time cycle may be around 10 years. That means today I am buying a magnet, it will keep a strength, or maybe not completely losing, maybe say 60 to 70% energy will be retained by end of the 10 years. If things are proper. If things go bad, then it may demagnetize early also. So, what we selected the neodymium iron boron that time, and this was our operating range, feasible operating range. We felt that it will not go beyond this temperature. So, we made a permanent magnet bearing. You can see here, we could not buy a single magnet, so we bought 4 magnets. Right? This is a permanent magnet. Now, if I mount this or assemble this rotor, this is the rotor, I am using the word rotor, on this shaft and insert in this, the way sketch has been shown, this will give me the magnetic bearing. So it should give me the good results. Rotor will be in repulsion from stator. Stator is a stationary part, rotor is a rotating part. This will be mounted on a shaft, and this magnet is assembled in housing. It should give me the very good results, but the problem comes. When I am using the full ring magnet, it is not even able to load, take the load, very fraction of the load. But if we have applied on 16 Newton load, even in that case there is a touch. So, magnets are not repelling each other completely. Our mechanical load is much more than the repulsion which will be created by permanent magnet. Right? So, there was a need of the modeling, as Bobji says that modeling is required to understand the phenomena and finally convert to product. So, this is what was done. We did a modeling, and then modeling says that this kind of permanent magnet can give you maximum load of 52 Newton. We were requiring around 300 Newton loads. We reduced to 60, and even 60 it could not sustain. The 52 Newton maximum loads. Either we go ahead with this setup, assuming permanent magnet cannot be used for heavy load condition. Can be used only for the very light load condition. That is one possibility. However, another thing is that full ring will give the force from the top as well as the bottom, and the gravity is coming downward. Why not we give force only from the bottom? Why we should give from the top? So, the theory comes, why not we go ahead with the half ring 180 degree magnet? Why should I make 360? It will be economic, cheaper to get a half magnet compared to full magnet. So, the simulation results were also favorable. You can see here that around 373 or 77 load can be carried by using a half magnet. Instead of using full ring, use a half magnet. So, modeling is giving the good results. We experimented, we could see levitation. Initially there is a levitation. Static load it is able to sustain. However, it has some sort of eccentricity. Eccentricity is in 0.96, 0.97 something. Now, when I start rotating, it rotates. When it reaches to this area, there is no permanent magnet. It is not repelling back. So, this shaft goes and hammers there. Once the hammering starts, complete magnetic field gets disturbed. Then fracture of the lower magnet and this permanent magnet will occur. Lower magnet of the lower stator magnet and rotor will occur. And this has been shown earlier. In a static case, it is repelling. Clear. It can sustain the load. But because of the half one, there is an uneven field available. As it rotates, it starts hitting. Of course, it takes little more time. It does not immediately hit. It takes few seconds. And when it starts hitting, because of these materials are ceramic materials, even a one knock is sufficient to crack these magnets, and really the failure occurred. You can see here, these rotors were in pieces. Right? So, magnetic bearing is not working. It is not working with a full ring, it is not working with a half ring also. Right? So, we should reject magnetic bearing. Either we reject, or should we go ahead with some more better thinking. And this is also, this is the fracture, and you can see here there is a wear mark also on the magnet. That means it is not like permanent magnet will not wear out. It will not use judicially. With the proper thinking or proper modeling, magnet may fail. And this is what has been shown here. The fracture, first two magnet got fractured, other two magnet got wear mark. And another thing is that these magnets, after mechanical contact, were demagnetized. We have not done purposefully. During impact loading, magnet gets demagnetized. So, that is another problem. So, what we say that energy, when we are talking the magnetic bearing, people say that there will not be energy loss, but we are able to see whether I use active magnetic bearing, there is energy loss. If I use a passive magnetic bearing, there is again energy loss. Yeah, so there is a loss in this case. So what we say, current supply to electromagnet even if the load is 0. Electromagnetic bearing cannot work without bias current. So where the load is 0, still we are supplying some current. While in a case of rolling element bearing, in case of general bearing, we don't have that kind of problem. But in magnetic bearing, that is a problem. And what we say that there should be 0 wear, no, it is not. Even if there is a big failure, fracture, demagnetization. We know very well magnet if they get demagnetized, it will be more like a general bearing without lubricant. So again failure will occur, and it is a ceramic material. So yeah, there is a possibility, there is a failure, friction losses, there is a wear loss also. What we learn also, that stator in full magnetic ring cannot support the load. Much load, maybe only fraction of the load can be supported, and half a stator ring can support, can levitate the load, but remain unstable. We require stability also, right? And this curve shows the demagnetization. Initially, when we use found the magnetic field in this kind of magnet, you can see here that more or less constant, but on demagnetization, at one particular portion gets demagnetized, and after that failure starts. Right? So these are these magnets were not cracked one, not failed, not fractured one. Even only after some mechanical contact we found, yeah, these magnets are getting demagnetized, right? So you can say magnetic bearing should not be used as very, very bad product. Should never. Otherwise, you buy directly from SKF. SKF company is known as making a magnetic bearing. Only thing that they can tell us what will be the cost. It's a few lakh rupees for the one bearing, and may not be supported. So that's why my another PhD student started working on a different configuration. He analyzed. He said that this is a full ring, configuration 1, then half ring and top is aluminum. And one configuration, load is in downward direction. We keep half or 50% ring, half ring, but we also keep some ring or some magnet on the top to avoid unstable operation. So that if the magnet goes near or the rotor goes very near to this, at least this magnet is able to push back. Right? So only what is the problem? We are going to lose some magnetic field in this case, or some magnetic force in this case, but this will give us better operation. Right? So this was a product which he produced. You can see here there is an aluminum ring, there is a magnet which can be inserted in the top, and there is a half ring magnet which can be inserted in this, and this is a magnetic bearing. If I coat with the Teflon, it will look like a simple journal bearing, simple sleeve bearing. Let me show the video of this, and you can see here if there is any drawback or some problem in this. Right? So this is what we have done intentionally. There is a heavy load, kind of flywheel. There is a one bearing here, other bearing other side. Of course, in this case, we try to combine aerodynamic bearing with a permanent magnet. And this is the configuration what we have shown, 180 degree and 45 degree on the top. This bearing works. I try to magnify to see how it is working, but it does not come. But I can show you this is a low speed operation, and this is a high speed operation. This runs at the 6,000 RPM. I don't know why there's some sort of sound. You can see here, this is completely straight, perfect, and running at the 6,000 RPM. So running at the 2 to 300 RPM to 6,000 RPM, it is just giving a stable operation. And of course, that guy got his PhD, was happy. Now, what is the problem? Still, we have not overcome the problem of passiveness. Here, whatever the load was given, only that load is sustained. If I increase the load or to reduce the load to some extent, again the vibration is possible. Here the only speed was controlled, but not the load. With the various speed, no unbalance, it is able to support. But if there is an unbalance and speed is increasing, the more force will come out. And more force will be applied on this. So that is a bad thing. We cannot go ahead with this. We say that in this case particularly, we knew the load is the downward direction, gravity load is a heavy load, or dead weight is a major load, and dynamic load will not be very high. It can, this kind of bearing can sustain, otherwise it will not be. So still half part is done, not much. And another thing is that we can learn from here when we are dividing that only 180 degree and 45 degree. Why not I make number of pieces? So even then case dynamic load can be sustained. That means I keep 45 degree here, leave some gap, give another 45 degree, leave some gap, then another 45 degree. If I keep that way, I may get a better product. I had to make only 180 degree. If I divide in sectors and insert, it is the same thing like a tilting bed bearing. What happens in the journal bearing and tilting bed bearing, there are two different kind of bearings. What we say, when the dynamic load is higher side or rotational speed is on higher side, we shall use tilting pad bearings. What is the reason? Tilting pad doesn't have interconnectivity, or more like there is no cross coupling. Well, in this case of the bearings, if I use a full ring, there is a cross coupling. There is a radial load, and that radial load also will give some sort of degree of freedom in axial direction. So, because of this coupling, the bearing fails. It works for the few seconds. After that, is axially disturbed and moved forward direction. So, what we say in permanent magnet bearing, there is a problem. If I am supporting a radial load, if I am keeping geometry perfect, there is no problem. Even if I move 1 micron left hand side or right hand side, or rotor moves one side, there will be axial load that will push rotor out of the magnet. So, there is a problem. There is a coupling between radial and axial direction. To some extent, that coupling been reduced by 180 degree. If I am not putting to a head on the top side, my coupling is 1/4. Now, making this way, axial coupling is reduced, but instability or stability is also increasing. However, if I put this in number of sectors, there is a possibility coupling can be reduced to almost negligible level. Axial force generated because of the radial force will be negligible. Well, in this case, it is almost a 50%. Here, it will turn out to be much lesser. So, this is what I thought, and then the Leges started working on this. He has made this ring. Initially, started working with the sector shape, and finally came up, even a square magnet. If I buy a magnet from China, if I buy a square magnet, they are very, very cheap. If I buy a ring magnet, they are costlier. And square magnet, I can buy in bulk. Then I can make bearing of 50 mm ID, 60 mm ID, 70 mm ID, 80 mm ID. And I can put those square magnet directly inside this. That will give me the ring shape, near ring shape, not perfectly cylindrical shape, but nearly cylindrical shape, and it works nicely with the bearing. And this was a patent was filed in this year only. Of course, we initiated earlier. Finally, patent has been filed on 31st Jan. So I am able to declare. I am able to show the drawings. Otherwise, we were hiding it. And he showed the product something like this. This is the aluminum ring, paramagnetic material, where we can insert permanent magnet in these slots. And another good thing about he came up that instead of thinking about the big cylinder, why not we make a small piece, like this is a 10 mm thick. If I add 5, 10 mm thick, I can come up with a new arrangement, much better load carrying capacity. And I think I have a video also. You can see here now, this is the what has been shown, this is the one view, and this is another view. There are 5 rings have been arranged. Right? I can vary the mag field the way I want. this configuration, and looks very, this is more like a, even made of the square shapes, looks more like a cylindrical shape. Right? Otherwise, you make a sector shape, that means sector something here and then increases and then insert, that will be valid only for one radius. It will not be for each and all radius. This is what his product turned out to be good, and is showing some good results too. This is an static condition, it's a levitation. We are not running it, you can see here in a static condition. Right? It is a levitated, it's levitated, the rotor is levitated from. It's not touching, it's not contacting even on high load. Let me run it in a dynamic condition, or when we are there is some rotation is visible over here, right? It is working on the dynamic condition, the loading condition. Now, what is the advantage? Wherever the rotor goes, there is a permanent magnet, at least one permanent magnet is there and is able to repel it back. If you are 100% sure this eccentricity will not, that this rotor will not go up, I can remove also square magnet whenever I need. Right? So, permanent magnet bearing is very handy. We can make whichever the shape we want, it will give the good results. So, this is what we finally achieved, one thing. Now, coming to the second part, which is the active part, even though to some extent this bearing is able to sustain some fluctuation in load. Of course, fluctuation in speed is no problem, fluctuation in load is always sustained, but we required also along with this bearing, active magnetic bearing. Right? Reason being, we have an online monitoring, sensors are there, shaft position will be known, we are able to get the complete results. Right? It is more like a bearing with a complete maintenance unit inbuilt. The shaft is moving near to the bearing surface, immediately the magnetic force will be released or the current will be released, it will pull back to the original position, to the center position. So, this is what we require. However, we initially rejected, reason being the high initial cost and high running cost, which may not matter much to us now. Another thing is that there was drawback of the backup bearing. So, now we are thinking also, we will not use a ball bearing as a backup bearing, but we will be using a permanent magnet bearing as a backup bearing. Even in a static case, in the failure case, permanent magnet will be able to sustain that much load. And in the question, this system is now initially when we synthesized, we made completely with the wires, so system was little bulky. Now we are purchasing inbuilt system, which is coming not that costly and not that bulky. Well, in this case, we already overcome the problem by using the sector shape. Even the brittle material, permanent magnet is brittle, but by dividing in this so many sectors, we are able to give some sort of ductility to this and reducing the brittleness. The overall brittleness of the permanent magnet is reduced because of this configuration. So, this overcome, we have already overcome. Now, coming to the active magnetic part, and we need to combine these two. How are we planning to combine is something like that. There is active magnetic bearing, then permanent magnet bearing, then active magnetic bearing. The two side active magnetic bearing, in between there is a permanent magnet bearing, which will work as a retainer bearing or backup bearing. In case of the failure, it can sustain, or in a static load also it can sustain. Right? Now, coming to the active magnetic, we see that it is essential for us to provide maintenance free operation. Permanent magnet to reduce the cost, permanent magnet, particularly the way we have come up configuration, it does not cost too much. If you buy permanent magnet complete ring, you have to give complete design to China company, they will make die and make permanent magnet according to that. That will cost a lot. Saying, you give me the square shape, now it's our job to make it in. The cost has come down drastically. This is what we say that square shaped economic magnetic piece we will be using here, and instead of one bearing, we are applying two bearings. And this is a new thing because we have gone through literature. We found people generally use one magnet, active magnetic bearing, with permanent magnet or one electromagnetic bearing with rolling element. But however, we came up with the optimization that we require two permanent magnets to keep perfect alignment. But most of the problems are starting because of the alignment, sharp alignment. To overcome this, we require this kind of combination. Right? What we say that the hybrid bearing which we are going to use, we have designed but not fabricated, which we are going to use, will be composing a passive bearing to bear constant load, to active bearings to sustain dynamic load, or any kind of maintenance requirement will come. So what we are planning that initially will give a lesser current. However, if there is some sort of value somewhere, then it should be current will be more. These bearings are designed for that. There is mentioned what the new in this. This is a quite new thing in this and hybrid bearing configuration, because if you do a literature review, you will get a number of publications on hybrid bearings. People have done. It's not a new thing. But they have used only one AMP with a permanent magnet and one AMP with rolling element. People have not used of this kind of combination. Then another thing is that people who have done electromagnetic bearing design, they are not optimized. Somebody who has optimized, they are not designed. So there is some sort of gap between this, what we have done in the literature review and found out. But we are trying here, in this case, we are trying to optimize our electromagnet. But do we optimize? First thing is that first electromagnet which we made was a 4-pole. And after going through literature, understanding and modeling, we found this 4-pole electromagnet has a good coupling, which will be taken to the later Rajesh tomorrow paper. He has a paper on complete paper on this. So this is a coupling. If I want uncouple permanent magnet or electromagnet, naturally I need to break. This is what we are doing now. This one electromagnet is complete one side. Here it was bypassing this one also. You can see here the coupling. When first line passes, goes to next line. Right? So what happens? If I pass a current through this electromagnet and this electromagnet, so neither this shaft will go and touch here, nor will shift to touch over here. It will jump and touch over here, which is wrong. Right? So there is a big coupling, there is huge coupling in this kind of electromagnet, and that's why we made this kind of design to work out this kind of coupling. In addition, there are a number of equations to be solved to optimize it. Again, good thing about this work is we have a number of equations, but we are not using any software to solve the optimization. We are using simple monotonic analysis or monotonicity analysis or monotonicity problem solving. But what is the new thing in this is the monotonic is what? Say every mechanical component by and large is monotonic in nature. You increase dimension, force will increase. You increase dimension, space will increase. So this is a continuous, the monotonic. They are not unimodal, they are not multimodal. They are by and large unimodal. They are by and large monotonic. So if I use that kind of characteristics, I will be beneficial. If I don't use that, how do I solve the problem? Maybe MATLAB or maybe other algorithm can solve the problem, but what we do? We write a problem, constraint problem with the functions or constraint function. And how we do solve? We make a new function where the objective function minimization problem is there, plus we use some sort of penalty functions. That's the way we do optimization. Now this penalty is generally kept very high, so that our solution remains in feasible domain. It doesn't go or doesn't violate any constraint. If it violates any constraint, actually that will not be optimal problem. That's why we try to keep it in feasible domain by keeping this sigma very high, even if it is different. However, if you do that, what will happen? Many times we are getting ill solution. We are getting bad solution, and without knowing, because we don't understand much, what kind of dimension will come out, it gives wrong results. Right? Now it depends completely on the person. If he knows he is very good in optimization, he will solve it, we do different trials, different results, match it, compare it, and will get a good results. Otherwise, you make it T solution or the bad solution, or maybe the many times problem is not solved. To overcome that, we are using this monotonic behavior of the mechanical elements. So you see that this algorithm, the monotonic analysis, it says that we should concentrate on constant activity. If the constant is active or inactive. What is the meaning of this? Let's take back this example. What is this? Let's say the constant is active or inactive. If I make this equal, I max is equal to this one, then it is active constraint. This constraint is affecting the solution. If I remove this sign and it is say the lesser than that, the constraint is inactive. Constraint is not satisfied. Not satisfied, there is no need to satisfy this constraint. This constraint will not participate in final optimal solution. Right? So this is what we say, that if we understand constant activity, we can solve the problem much faster way and much lesser efforts. So that is what is being done in this. We try to see the constant activity, but we are saying inactive constraint is lesser than or greater than, doesn't play any role in location of optimum or optimum results. Its presence is only defined in the feasible domain. If we understand the constant activity well in advance, it will give a good solution. Right? Let's take this one of the example. What we are saying here, this x1 has a negative monotonic behavior compared to f. However, if I see this x, is having a positive monotonic behavior. And x1, this one also, if I say there is a negative one, this, if I reverse it, lesser than 1, negative 1. So this constant will turn out to be active constant. And this is what we take. X3 has a negative monotonic behavior or positive monotonic behavior. If there is any other constraint having opposite monotonicity, then only it can constrain, otherwise it will not. So this is what has been done in this case, our case, and this is what I am trying to show again, what meaning of monotonicity. If x is increasing, f is increasing, so monotonic, positive monotonicity. If x is increasing, f is decreasing, then it is a negative. In other words, these two have opposite monotonicity. If I am trying to solve two functions, these two will be given to equal function. These two functions have the same monotonicity, maybe order is different, maybe one is linear, another one is a quadratic. But results will be different. This will not be able to solve. That means if the constraints having this kind of behavior, only one of the constraints will be active. One will be playing a role, other will not play. But in this case, if the constraints or one is objective function, yeah, both will play a role. If both are constraint, it is not involving an objective function, then again they will play a role. So let's have a couple of the things. This is the I already mentioned. There are some guidelines, some principles. But we say that there are two laws for this kind of optimization. First norm says that the objective function and constraint need to have an opposite monotonicity if variable is involved. Otherwise, if variable is not an objective function, then we should go ahead with second monotonicity analysis. Say that this constraint need to have opposite monotonicity. Otherwise, it will not. For example, this has a negative monotonicity for x1. This constraint has a positive monotonicity. However, this x1 is not there in any other equation. So this will not, this 2 will be solved. Or this constraint will be active for this function. Now, x2 is not a part of this function. It is coming only in this equation. But we are solving this equation, so we need to keep into account x2. The next, this is having negative monotonicity, this has a positive monotonicity. So these two constraints will be simultaneously solved. Then comes to xp, which has a negative monotonicity, but in this case it has a positive monotonicity. So then this constraint also will be active. It is trying to convey this V1 have to be minimized. This has a negative monotonicity compared to this. This has a negative monotonicity compared to this. This has this. So that's fine. This constraint will turn out to be active, this constraint will be active, this constraint will be active. When all three constraints are active, I don't have to solve the problem. I have to say that x 3 is a 10, substitute in, find out x2, substitute in, find out x1, substitute in this. So optimization is done. There is no need to optimize this one. There is only one unique solution. If you go at complexity point, it will not give the good result. So this is what final result comes without solving it, and this was done in our magnetic bearing problems. Some solution came, we applied for 500 Newton load, assuming the static or constant, maybe centrifugal force also is well within 350 Newton, dynamic load 150, we got a optimized dimension. This is the overall configuration, and we are placing permanent magnet here. Anyway, there is some error in the drawing because this portion will not come, but here we are leaving some gap for the electromagnetic coil and hope this will work, right. We have not fabricated, we have designed it and believing that this will give us good results. However, one part remaining is a control system for this. So another student is working on the control. He is maintaining the two bearings. He has a displacement sensor, what is a proximity sensor, has a controller, and now he was supplying this IB current, the bias current to this, which in our case magnetic bearing we will not, permanent magnet bearing we will not require. So we will be giving now more IC compared to IB, and he developed an algorithm also for this, what we use the word PID controller. You found out how to get the results. So simple thing is that if the shaft in a static condition, shaft whatever the position of the shaft does not matter, you bring the shaft to one side and note its displacement. After that you bring the shaft to other side, make a measure the displacement reading, and based on that you find out the geometric center. Earlier we used to worry too much about the geometric center, cylinder setting. With this new algorithm, whatever you assemble it, if there is any assembly problem there is no issue, alignment problem there is no issue, you just figure out based on this. And we are using two small electromagnet, the two sides, the geometric center can be figured out using this algorithm. That is a good results, and he is also developed another one algorithm. He says that if I slowly change, I can note down all the readings, I can figure out based on the what will be the maximum velocity. If I know the maximum velocity, I can find out what should be the factors, and these are our optimization figures, that what should be the Kp or the for PID controller, what should be Kp, what should be Kd, what should be Ki. And design complete controller, it does not require really too many parameters in advance. You fit the bearings, if there is any error, geometric error, that will be corrected its own. That is what is algorithm and is giving good results to us. Based on that, he also experimented with one known system. The known system runs at around 10,000 RPM, that shaft. He removed complete his existing control system, he applied his own control system and came up with the figures which are really good. First use algorithm, got the results, and then also this small setup, one electromagnet this side, one electromagnet this side, this shaft can run at 10,000 RPM. Now if there is any unbalance, there are 4 controllers over here. If the all 4 green, that means it is perfectly balanced, it is at the geometric center. Shaft geometric center, bearing geometric centers, they are matching. If any one is not glow, is not green, that means geometric center is off, that we need to balance it, right. So based on this he could figure out, yeah, his algorithm is working. So we are hopeful when we combine, we make a permanent magnet with a hybrid electromagnet and combine this algorithm, overall good solution will come out, and that is what all our project. So I think I can switch off this. Okay, so we say that we need to develop a system. You are not done. You have done separately permanent magnet, separately electromagnet, separate control. But still we have to develop, keep it, and then fabricate overall proper system. However, big question comes where we are going to use it. We are doing it so much, but is there any application? Yeah. So we found one application and we are working. We already visited those windmills where we are trying. We found some fluctuation, some understanding from those systems. This is what we are trying to use the green tribology word. We are trying to the green product side, and this literature review indicates that CO2 emissions are increasing day by day. If we compare United States, Russia, European, Japan, all these are almost straight lines. So whatever that their CO2 emission by and large remain ideal, it is not increasing. Of course, we should not take example of China where the CO2 is increasing rapidly. Of course, they are saying there is a phenomenal growth, because of that this CO2 emission is increasing possibility. In India also it is increasing. We should be in these countries, or at least we should bring this more like a straight line. We can do that kind of contribution by adding some value to electricity, and that is what our aim. When we studied greenhouse effect, particularly the CO2, we found CO2 contribution or overall development of CO2 or generation of CO2 is basically the electricity is contributing 33%. If you can make a green product, green production of electricity it will have. Now electricity is produced in number of ways. We are saying conventional and non-conventional. We are concentrating on non-conventional, which is 31% of this 33%. When we review all other non-conventional thing, we are saying yeah, solar comes on the top, but after that there is a wind. And solar energy has not yet received very good reputation in efficiency. Wind turbine is growing continuously. Our growth rate of the wind turbine is much higher than solar one. So we are concentrating on this. So we try to save CO emission, we try to contribute more on the wind turbine side and bring the bearing there. This is some sort of review which says that if I understand or collect the data, wind power generation, somewhere in 2000 it was a 17.4 gigawatt. In 2012, from the wind itself is coming around 283 gigawatt. If I see the Indian scenario, which is much faster growing in this area, you can see Indian scenario. In 2000, it was only 220 megawatt. Now we are having in 2012, it turned out to be 16.18 gigawatt. So there's a worth. We should contribute to this kind of product. And good thing about this is, when we think about the wind turbine, because we were working on the magnetic bearing, particularly fluctuation side, the rolling element bearing, if there is a fluctuation, power generation will not be that good. Obviously, the friction losses will be more. Magnetic bearing, if there is a fluctuation and active magnetic part can sustain that, can overcome that kind of difficulties, then there will not be problem. Reason being, wind turbine, they have maximum efficiency for each speed. Right? Now, either they go with a variable pitch mechanism or they go with a gear mechanism. I believe the gear mechanism will be a better option compared to variable pitch. Variable pitch is a bad option. So, when we go with that, then we really require good magnetic bearings. Right? And this is some data will be given. With some way speed variation, power generation changes drastically. If you go with a gear mechanism, it will give the good results, and to support the gear system, you can go out with the permanent magnetic bearing and active magnetic bearing with flywheel system. Right? Now, this is a commonly used wind turbine plus generator plus energy storage system. and by and large people are using battery system. What is the reason here? When I connect windmill directly to the line, consumer load will be certain. It may go high side in daytime, low side in evening. So there will be continuous fluctuation. Now I need to either change everything in wind turbine, or let wind turbine work independently, let consumer load be independently. Whatever energy extraction, put it energy in flywheel. Whenever is required, you give back to customers. Right? So this is what the overall thing. People are per timing, you are using a big banks of the batteries, and we came to know battery cost is only 1x. Is replacement. Discarding that battery is 1.5x. The companies are working, even the cost is 1x, or maybe the sell price is 1x. They have to discard that battery, then they have to pay 1.5x. That means it's such a bad product, they have to reutilize the battery one way or another way. So we don't know in future what kind of batteries we are going to get. Better we go with this kind of product. But we are saying that overall fluctuation may happen in few seconds to few hours. I can use a generator for the long duration. For small duration, I may not require a generator. If I have a flywheel system, I can store energy and give back. Right? This is what we spend then switching on and on generator takes few seconds. If I have a good system, flywheel system, I can store energy. I don't really require generator to switch on and off that. However, if it is a problem, consumers doesn't get electricity immediately, then there will be bad response. So we are trying to work on that. And would we say that if there is a speed fluctuation in wind turbine, there will be problem related to voltage, there will be a problem related to frequency, what we call that as a bad quality power. So if we have proper measures, then we may get a good power, quality of the power. Right? So this is what we say that battery is a problem, we require alternative technology, reason being battery economics is bad. It is slow response. It doesn't respond immediately the way flywheel does. It has limited life cycle. It has maintenance related problem. Right? And this is what the system has been mentioned. Is it? Should I close it? Yeah. So this is what wind turbine system what we are planning, and we hope will come up nicely. So would I say that? Thank you.
In case of permanent magnetic bearings, so I'll just ask, are you audible?
No, in between noise is coming, so I don't know. Yeah, can we permanent magnet, what's that?
In case of permanent magnet bearings, so whatever the rotor is there, so when it cuts the magnetic lines of force, again it can induce the current. That induced current again it can produce the magnetic field. So that magnetic interferences can change.
Yeah, it happens at very high speed. It doesn't happen in 10,000, 20,000 RPM. It happens at very high speed. That time we need to also account this eddy current.
So then it's a
But
limitation for high speeds with respect to.
it is not restriction. Only thing is that when we are saying that we are using electromagnet, if anything happens, electromagnet will sense it. So that's why we are trying to couple it. We are saying the permanent magnet has a problem at the low speed. Low speed it vibrates a lot, it hits. But when it comes to the some speed, after that it remains in center. Go beyond certain speed, let's say more than 10,000, 15,000, again the eddy current losses will start. That destabilize the permanent magnet. So that's why we require active magnet. So that's why we are using the hybrid bearing. And we are saying the hybrid bearing, the both the side electromagnet, center only the permanent magnet. Because even the slight misalignment, that can be counted by electromagnet.
With respect to electromagnet bearings, so you told 30 watt is the required at initial startup.
I'm sorry.
I mean, more wattage is required with respect to electron.
Yeah, this is what we did analysis initially, and we rejected completely this bearing.
But with the alternate firings, so can we reduce that power?
No, we have tried it. What is happening in electromagnet? You require some current initially, then you can add and subtract from that current, right? So what we call the bias current is essentially required. Even you don't have any load, still bias current is being given to the electron. So that's the major loss. While putting a permanent magnet, the people have done embedding permanent magnet also in electromagnet. They have overcome, but what we have said the problem, when the electromagnetic field starts, then the permanent magnet and electromagnet there will be coupling. That makes controller very, very complicated. So if they go you for the H infinity or mu control, any high speed control, then the cost will go on that side. But we are trying to go ahead with the PID and adaptive PID. I think this kind of solution will give the results.
So, if I understand correctly, this is very similar to magnetic levitating trains and things like that, only in a circular form.
Yeah, magnetic levitation, they use a superconducting material, they use a low temperature, they don't use this kind of a thing. Yeah, but principle is
the
same.
same.
Yeah.
So, is it possible to use a alternating magnetic field, a rotating magnetic field, to drive it as well?
Yeah, that is very good thing that even the people are using now. Motor has the bearings. They are saying why we require a bearing. We use permanent this electromagnetic bearing. So we have not reached to that solution. Yeah, but that is possible. That is possible. We have not done, but people are trying and they may come up with the right.
I suppose the questions are over. And now we know that Dr. Harish Hirani has got his bearings very right in the bearings research. He has given an elaborate description about the work he has done in magnetic bearings, which is a very much a product oriented research. See, with regards to I may add something with regards to that wind power situation. Now the maximum wind power capacity is around 5 megawatts, and research is going on to increase it to say 20 megawatt per installation, which means it can power up to say 20,000 homes. But such wind turbines need to have wind blades up to say 100 meters, and to balance them on bearings, it is a very huge or difficult task. And also research is going on with respect to wind turbines usable at home instead of solar units, and there also the main problem, as he said, is with regards to the storage of electricity with batteries. And if you analyze the life cycle of batteries, then it is not that green. So his research has got tremendous potential once the products are developed out of it. Thank you very much, Dr. Hirani, and I invite beloved Prabhakaran Nair sir to give a memento as a token of our appreciation to Dr. Hirani.